The story begins in a classroom where the teacher calls on Sekime to answer a question. The girl confidently walks to the board, solves the problem, and earns praise from the sensei. Taka, a male classmate, is so captivated by her that he stares intensely. Noticing his distraction, the teacher calls on him next. Startled, he jumps up, clumsily dropping his pencil box and feeling incredibly lame as he scrambles to pick it up. Internally, Taka reflects on Sekime-san. He views her as beautiful, diligent, and popular with everyone. She usually speaks to others with a warm smile. However, when Taka approaches her to borrow a math notebook, her mood changes instantly. Sekime hands it over with a cold, expressionless face. The boy realizes disheartenedly that while she is kind to everyone else, he is the sole exception. Later during gym class, Sekime excels at volleyball, scoring a goal. Watching from the sidelines, Taka's friend comments that the girl possesses both brains and athletic skills. He begins to cry comically, convinced that she hates him. The friend asks if he did something to offend her, but the boy insists he has no idea. He laments that Sekime is the dream girl of their grade, yet her smile vanishes only when he is around. He admits he just wants to talk to her normally like everyone else, even if dating her is impossible. As the friend tries to comfort him, Sekime secretly glances in Taka's direction. After school, poor lad realizes he forgot his phone and returns to the classroom. When he slides the door open, he is shocked to find Sekime sitting at his desk. The girl immediately stands up and looks away. Taka's mind races, wondering if she hates him so much that she was planning a prank, such as filling his desk with acorns. Deciding to confront the issue, he approaches her. He asks if he did something wrong and begs her to tell him, explaining that it is hard not knowing why she dislikes him. Sekime quietly denies hating him. The boy pushes back, pointing out that she always goes silent and avoids eye contact. He apologizes for whatever he might have done. Sekime asks why he is so concerned about her. Taka, feeling awkward, explains that since they are classmates, he wants to get along. He adds that she seems fun when she is with others, and finally admits that he thinks she is cute. Hearing this, she jolts in surprise. In the ensuing confusion, Taka reaches for her hand, but they end up tripping and falling to the floor. The boy lands above her and notices that her face has turned completely red. Flustered, Sekime quickly slips out from underneath him and runs out of the classroom. Left alone, he is perplexed. He wonders if it is possible that she doesn't hate him after all. Our lad reflects on the previous day's events, realizing that his assumption that Sekime hated him was likely wrong. Determined to fix things, he tries to call out to her in the corridor, but she sprints away immediately. The boy is left bewildered, feeling that whenever he tries to approach her, she flees with incredible speed. Later, he spots Sekime carrying a box of supplies out of the classroom. Seeing an opportunity, he follows her to a storage room. Once she enters to put the box down, he stands in the doorway, blocking the exit. She tries to escape, but he refuses to move. Defeated, she hides behind a storage rack. Taka apologizes for cornering her, but insists on getting answers. He asks why she keeps running away, if she claimed she didn't hate him. He explains that he simply wants to have a normal conversation. Sekime hesitates, her entire face turning red, and admits that she is just too embarrassed. When Taka looks confused, she asks if he remembers being late on the day of the entrance ceremony. A flashback reveals the truth of their first meeting. Sekime had arrived late due to a nervous stomachache and was being scolded at the school gate by a teacher for slacking off on the first day. Suddenly, he had arrived, also late. Seeing Sekime in trouble, he quickly loosened his tie and untucked his shirt to look disheveled. He walked up to the teacher and greeted him cheerfully. The teacher, angry about the boy's messy look, let Sekime go and grabbed Taka by the collar to scold him instead. Taka didn't complain. He even waved at Sekime, saying it looked like she was having a hard time too. Back in the present, she explains that she realized he had saved her that day, but she never got the chance to ask for his name. She was thrilled to be in the same class again, yet his presence left her so nervous she couldn't speak. Taka is shocked but relieved to hear that she doesn't hate him. Sekime clarifies that her feelings are actually the opposite. Hearing this, Taka blushes, realizing this is a first for him. In a moment of panic and adrenaline, Taka blurts out a question. Why don't we try dating each other? Silence fills the room. Internally, the boy freaks out, terrified that he rushed things or misunderstood her feelings, causing his heart to pound loudly. However, Sekime breaks the silence and simply replies, "Yes, please." Thus, Sekime officially becomes his girlfriend. Takadono returns home completely flustered by the realization that he now has his very first girlfriend. While soaking in the bathtub, the boy marvels that dating Sekime feels like a dream, his face turning bright red at the thought. He recalls that they even exchanged contact information before parting ways. After his shower, he picks up his phone, hesitating about whether he should message her. He hypes himself up, reasoning that as her boyfriend, it is perfectly acceptable. He drafts a heartfelt message thanking her for talking to him and expressing his happiness, but quickly deletes it. He panics, worrying it is too long and might make Sekime think he is weird or creepy. After much agonizing, he settles on a simple, "Good evening." Immediately, he regrets it, fearing she will find him boring for only sending a basic greeting. However, his phone buzzes almost instantly. Sekime replies with a cute dog sticker echoing the greeting. Relieved, Taka types a message thanking her for the day and hoping they get along well. She responds with another matching sticker. Blushing, Taka decides to be brave. After some thought, he sends a text thanking her for becoming his girlfriend. Immediately overwhelmed by embarrassment, he buries his face between his knees. Meanwhile, in her own room, Sekime reads the text and becomes equally flustered. The boy decides to go to sleep while waiting for a reply. Just as he lays down, his phone buzzes. He sprints back to check it and sees a message from Sekime asking if he wants to walk to school together the next day. Beaming with a smile, he replies that he would love to, setting the stage for their first morning commute together. Now that they have finally started dating, Taka notices a change in Sekime. While she is usually quiet in person, she becomes surprisingly talkative when they communicate via text, even suggesting that they walk to school together. The next morning, he waits for her on the street, marveling that the day has finally come when they can walk to school as a couple, something he never thought possible given his previous assumption that she hated him. He receives a message from Sekime saying, "I am here." Our boy looks around, confused, until he spots her hiding behind a utility pole far down the street, smiling at him. He points out that she is too far away, but they begin walking. However, they maintain a comical distance of about 7 feet. Every time he turns around to look at her, Sekime dives behind a pillar or a wall to hide. Confused and anxious, Taka wonders if she actually dislikes walking next to him, despite agreeing to date. He takes out his phone and texts her, asking if it would have been better to go to school separately. Sekime replies instantly, refusing the idea. She explains via text that she really wants to walk near him, but whenever she gets close, her heartbeat becomes uncontrollably fast. Taka turns to look at her again. Seeing her shy expression, he becomes flustered as well, realizing that his heart is also pounding. As they approach the school, a female classmate greets Sekime, and they chat normally about homework. Taka observes how naturally popular Sekime is, accepting that people just gather around her. Inside at the shoe lockers, a male student greets Sekime, noting that she is a little later than usual. She responds politely and normally. However, when Taka approaches and wishes her a good morning, Sekime immediately averts her gaze, mutters a quick greeting to the side, and sprints away. The situation looks incredibly awkward to onlookers. His friend puts a comforting hand on Taka's shoulder, telling him not to let it get to him. However, he is internally calm. He realizes that while this behavior used to depress him, he now knows the truth. Sekime ran away because she is blushing bright red. That evening at home, Taka searches the internet for advice on where to go for a first date. He specifically looks for locations suitable for couples who struggle to keep a conversation going. After reading through suggestions, he decides that a movie theater is the perfect solution. The next day at school, he waits for Sekime to separate from her group of friends. Once she is alone in the corridor, he attempts to approach her. However, another male student greets her, forcing Taka to retreat momentarily, realizing how difficult it is to catch her alone due to her popularity. Once the coast is clear, he tries again from a distance. When he calls out to her, Sekime stops but remains silent. Taka stammers, trying to ask about Sunday, but before he can finish his sentence, she sprints away. The boy is baffled by her strange movement, which he likens to an optical illusion, and finds it impossible to catch up to her. Back in the classroom, Taka sits at his desk, realizing that a face-to-face invitation is still too embarrassing for her to handle. Although he wanted to ask her in person, he decides to compromise. He looks over at Sekime, who is surrounded by friends, and sends a text message asking if she would like to see a movie on Sunday. Across the room, she checks her phone. Upon reading the message, her face turns bright red, prompting her friends to ask what is wrong. She types a reply saying she would love to, accompanied by a cute dog sticker. Taka silently celebrates his victory. On Sunday, he waits at the meeting spot, anxiously worrying about whether his clothes and hair look okay. Finally, Sekime arrives and thanks him for waiting. When he looks at her, his face turns even brighter red, struck by how cute she looks. Overwhelmed by shyness, he quickly turns away to hide his blush and awkwardly suggests they get moving, kicking off their very first date. Taka Dono and Sekime enter the movie theater, where a billboard advertises a new film titled Chupacabra. The boy points it out and suggests that she pick their seats if she has a preference. In response, she quickly inches away from him as he approaches the counter. He glances at her, overwhelmed by the reality that he is actually on a date with her, hoping they can get a little closer today. However, inside the theater, the seating arrangement proves less than romantic. They end up seated on opposite sides of the central staircase aisle. He sighs internally, guessing that she is just too embarrassed to sit next to him, though he reassures himself that she definitely doesn't hate him. He looks sadly at the full bucket of popcorn he bought specifically to share. Determined to bridge the gap, he extends his arm across the aisle, offering Sekime some. She takes a handful and thanks him. However, just as she reaches for another helping, another moviegoer squeezes between them to pass through, effectively separating them again. As they eat, Taka thinks that this isn't exactly the date he imagined. He worries whether Sekime is having fun. As the movie plays, he glances over and is relieved to see her smiling at the screen. Sekime turns to look at him at the same moment. They exchange a smile, but upon realizing the intimacy of the moment, both of them freak out and quickly look away. After the movie finishes, they emerge into the crowded lobby. Taka asks if she wants to buy any merchandise. He picks up a bizarre item labeled Chupacabra Dominant Paw, priced at 800 yen. The boy is baffled by the object, muttering that the monster must be right-handed and wondering if it is a pen. To his surprise, Sekime reaches out and grabs a matching paw. She explains that she will buy one too so that they can have matching items. Taka is overjoyed by the gesture. When he asks what they should do next, she gathers her courage and admits that the pounding in her heart is bad for her health, so she is going to go home. Taka blushes furiously and agrees. On the train ride back, they sit seats apart. For now, this distance is still the closest they can get. While riding the train home, Taka Dono reflects on the date, hardly believing it was real. They watched a movie and bought matching chupacabra hands, but he feels a pang of sadness knowing the day is about to end. He wishes the time could last forever, but they soon arrive at the station. He steps off the train while Sekime remains near the door. He thanks her for the day, telling her it was really nice. She smiles but remains silent. He hopes she enjoyed herself as much as he did. Assuming they are parting ways, he waves goodbye, telling her to be careful as the doors begin to close. However, as the train pulls away, he is stunned to realize that she has stepped off onto the platform with him. She announces that she wants to see him off all the way to the ticket gate. Though confused, he happily accepts. During the walk to the gate, the couple takes their sweet time, walking as slowly as physically possible to prolong their time together. Finally arriving at the exit, he thanks her for walking with him. She looks away shyly. They wave goodbye, urging each other to hurry up and get home safely in a loop of polite reluctance. He eventually walks away, but after a short distance, he turns around. She is still standing there watching him, though she quickly attempts to hide behind a pillar when spotted. Unable to leave her, he buys a new ticket and walks back through the gate. He approaches her and suggests that he should be the one to escort her home instead. She agrees, and the two happily wait for the next train together. On Monday at school, Taka is taking his lunch out of his bag when he notices a group of girls inviting Sekime to eat with them. His own friend calls out, warning that if he doesn't hurry, they will leave him behind. He quickly rushes past her to join his group outside. While eating in the courtyard, the group notices a couple nearby feeding each other. The friend comments on how lucky they are to be so open about their relationship. Takadono begins to daydream, imagining how nice it would be if Sekime fed him. In his fantasy, she asks him to open wide. However, he quickly corrects the mental image to something more realistic. He imagines sitting far apart while she feeds him using absurdly long chopsticks or even a fishing rod while looking away. The friend teases him, noting that he looks incredibly happy while eating. He tells the friend to cut it out, internally admitting that while it is impossible right now, he hopes they can eat lunch together someday. The next day, during the lunch break, he and his friends decide to eat in the cafeteria. The room is crowded, but they spot an open table and sit down. He is stunned to realize that Sekime is sitting directly opposite him. Upon making eye contact, she quickly looks away. The friend tries to break the ice, joking that her group is also eating in the cafeteria and noting that they picked the same lunch meal. She gives a curt, awkward confirmation. Taka panics internally. He had wondered what it would be like to eat with her, but now that they are face to face, he is so nervous that he cannot even swallow his food. After a moment of heavy silence, she abruptly stands up, announces that she is going to eat over there, and walks away. His friends, interpreting this as a brutal rejection, look at him with pity. One friend offers him a croquette, while the other offers his yakisoba bread, trying to comfort him. He hides his face in embarrassment, thanking them, and deciding that eating lunch together can wait until much later. Late one afternoon, it is raining heavily at the school. Takadono descends the stairs, realizing he lost track of time while writing in his journal. At the entrance, he finds Sekime, standing alone, staring out at the downpour. He approaches her, surprised to see her still at school. She jolts and tucks her hair behind her ear silently. He asks if she brought an umbrella. She explains that she usually carries a collapsible one, but forgot it today. Without hesitation, he offers her his umbrella, telling her to use it. He wraps his school coat over his head, declaring that he doesn't mind getting a little wet. He says goodbye and turns to leave, but she stops him by hooking the umbrella handle around his hand. Shyly, she suggests that they use it together. He is stunned and blushes completely, muttering his agreement. As he holds the umbrella, he reflects that walking home together under the same umbrella is like a dream come true. He opens the umbrella, but she refuses to come closer. He points out that it won't work if she doesn't come closer. When she still doesn't move, he awkwardly steps toward her, but she retreats further. Realizing the issue is her intense shyness, he promises to look the other way while they walk. Hearing this, she finally steps out, and the two stand together under the umbrella. True to his word, he looks away and signals for them to start walking. Internally, he realizes this is the first time he has ever stood so close to her, noting that she smells very nice. She offers to hold the umbrella for a while, but he declines, wanting to show off his reliability as a boyfriend. Suddenly, he steps on a slippery manhole cover. He loses his footing, bringing the umbrella down with him. He manages to balance himself before falling, but when he looks up, he finds that their faces are dangerously close. Overwhelmed, she blushes furiously and dashes away to hide behind a nearby pole. He shouts an apology, worried she will get wet. However, he then realizes the rain has finally stopped. He calls out that they can go home now. They walk the rest of the way far apart. A rainbow appears above. The next day at school, a group of girls is chatting with Sekime when Takadono and his friend approach. One of the girls explains that she is addicted to a new mobile game where taking a picture of a real person generates an in-game item. She reveals that when she took a photo of Sekime, she instantly received an SSR rank Excalibur. The group marvels at her, calling her amazing, though she humbly insists it was just a coincidence. Eager to try, he and his friend ask the girl to take a picture of them. She obliges, snapping a photo of the boys. However, the resulting items appear to be strange, bone-like structures or leaks. The girl gasps, identifying them as cursed items. As the group laughs at their bad luck, Sekime stands nearby, trembling silently. Later, he exits the washroom, muttering to himself about the strange games people play. Suddenly, he hears her calling his name. He turns around to find her hiding behind a wall far down the hallway. He approaches, noting that it is rare for her to call out to him first. She hesitates but eventually holds up her phone, asking if she can take a picture of him. He agrees, but jokes that she might get a cursed item, like a green onion. She quickly clarifies that it isn't for the game. She just wants a picture of him to keep. He tells her that she can take as many as she wants. She begins directing the photo shoot, instructing him to turn his head away and stand further back so she can take the photo using the zoom function, maintaining her safe distance. He complies, hoping the distance helps her nerves. Once she is satisfied, he asks if he can take a picture of her as well. Flustered, she agrees. He snaps the photo and thanks her. She thanks him in return before sprinting away. Left alone, he looks at the photo on his screen. He considers setting it as his home screen wallpaper, but quickly decides against it. In the image, she is blushing with a bright red face, an expression he realizes she likely only shows to him. He decides he wants to keep that special sight all to himself. That evening at home, Takadono stares at Sekime's photo, agonizing over how to deepen their relationship. He debates whether he should prioritize emotional closeness or physical closeness first. The intense overthinking keeps him awake all night, and the consequences hit the next day during gym class. Exhausted and out of breath while running on the track, he collapses and faints. The teacher takes him to the infirmary, where the nurse diagnoses him with sleep deprivation and orders him to rest in bed. As he lays down, he hears a familiar voice asking permission to enter as a class representative. He immediately recognizes the voice as Sekime's. He sits up as his girlfriend enters. Seeing her still in her gym clothes, he realizes she must have run all the way there to check on him. He apologizes for worrying her, explaining that he simply hadn't slept enough. She lets out a breath of relief but immediately hides behind the curtain, announcing that she will watch over him from there so he can sleep. He lays back down, thinking that he is too happy to possibly fall asleep. Suddenly, his friends arrive to visit. Surprised to find her standing there, they ask what she is doing. Panicked and needing an excuse, she blurts out that her nails got infected. The friends are horrified and suggest calling the police, but she quickly assures them it is already healed. The friends then turn their attention to the patient, noting his high temperature. One friend decides to sing a lullaby, breaking into a loud, operatic performance complete with an imaginary audience clapping. Takadono is internally annoyed by the noise, but exhaustion takes over, and he falls asleep almost instantly with a peaceful smile. As the friends coo over how cute he looks sleeping like a baby, she stands behind the curtain, internally lamenting that she desperately wants to see his sleeping face too. The next day in class, Takadono is being used as a human weight, lifted into the air by a classmate counting reps for muscle training. From his POV, he looks down and locks eyes with Sekime, noticing immediately that she has changed her hairstyle. Later, during the school's cleaning period, he is sweeping the floor when he spots her carrying a heavy dustbin toward the disposal area. He hurries after her and offers to help. She blushes and thanks him, and the two carry the bin together, each holding one handle, to the garbage collection site. On the way back with the empty crate, she brings up the earlier scene where he was being lifted during break time. He jokes that using his body for weight training was apparently more popular among the guys than using actual barbells. He then shifts the topic to her hair, noting the braids. She explains that a dexterous friend had styled it for her, but nervously asks if it looks weird. He assures her that while it was different from usual, it was very cute. Overwhelmed by the compliment, she suddenly lets go of the trash crate, leaving him scrambling to balance it alone. To fill the awkward air, he begins rambling, listing all the hairstyles he likes, her look during gymnastics, the style she wore on their date, and her usual look. He points out that ultimately, she is still herself, so she looks beautiful, regardless of the hairstyle. This barrage of affection is too much for her. Her face turns bright red, and looking as if she might cry from pure embarrassment, she sprints away. Left to carry the bin back alone, he sighs, realizing that having a long, normal conversation is still going to be a challenge. Meanwhile, hiding safely behind a wall, she tries to calm down as her heart pounds violently. The next day at school, the teacher announces a test for the following day, sending Taka and the rest of the class into a panic. However, amidst the stress, he realizes this presents a perfect excuse for a date. He quickly messages Sekime, asking if she would like to study together after class. She replies almost immediately with a "I would love to" message, accompanied by 3 dog stickers, making him ecstatic about their study appointment. After class, the couple meets in the study room. Although they sit at the same desk, they maintain a significant distance. He sighs, thinking he expected as much. When he approaches her with a textbook to ask for help, she immediately flees and hides behind a curtain. Adapting to her shyness, he leaves the book on the desk and retreats to his seat. She emerges, solves the problem, and slides the book back across the table to him. He muses that the sliding motion feels like receiving a drink from a stranger at a bar. As he reviews her notes, he is impressed not only by her intelligence, but by how well she explains the concepts. They continue this silent, sliding book method for the rest of the session. As it gets late, he decides to send one last message via the textbook. He writes a note in the margins thanking her for the help and expressing how glad he is to have spent time with her. He slides the book over. Hiding her red face behind the cover, she reads it, writes a response, and slides it back. He reads her reply, "I am also happy to have been able to be with you. Let's do this again sometime." The next day, just before the test begins, the teacher unexpectedly announces that he will be collecting everyone's notebooks for grading. Taka freezes, realizing that the romantic note from her is written permanently on one of the pages. In a panic, he frantically rips the page out of the notebook right in front of the teacher. The teacher and classmates stare in horror, convinced that the pressure of the test has caused him to snap and go crazy. He shouts an apology, clutching the precious note safely in his hand. In the science lab, the group is conducting an experiment when a student notices that Kuzuha-san is wearing a different school tie. She explains that she traded ties with her boyfriend so they can feel close even when apart. Sekime quietly overhears the conversation as the other girls swoon over the romantic gesture. Later, Takadono runs to the back of the school to meet Sekime, who had asked him to come. He is thrilled that she initiated the meeting. However, when he arrives, she appears incredibly nervous and begins fiddling with her tie, rolling it upward. Noticing this, he mimics the action, but she quickly stops him, clarifying that she isn't playing around. She brings up Kuzuha's story, explaining that it sounded nice to have a boyfriend nearby even when apart. Shyly, she asks if he would mind trading ties with her. His face turns red, but he agrees immediately, saying he would be happy to as long as she doesn't mind wearing his. He takes off his tie and exchanges it with hers, internally noting that he can still feel her warmth on the fabric. As they put on each other's ties, their hearts pound violently. Overwhelmed by the moment, she mutters a thank you and sprints away. Later, he catches his reflection in a window, blushing deeply. His friend notices him staring at the floor and assumes he is hungry, offering a loaf of bread. Taka politely declines, too distracted by the accessory around his neck. Back in class, Taka struggles to concentrate on writing. He feels that Sekime is practically hanging from his neck, making his heart race uncontrollably. Meanwhile, sitting behind him, she stares at his back, equally flushed and overwhelmed by the constant reminder of their closeness. Afterward, During art class, the teacher instructs the students to paint whatever their hearts desire. Sekime produces a beautiful piece of live art, impressing everyone with her talent. She modestly explains that the trick is to look at the whole rather than just one part. Takadono, on the other hand, draws a version so zoomed in that the subject doesn't fit on the paper, prompting his friend to joke that he will be a big shot someday. When the teacher asks for a volunteer model, he raises his hand. He thinks modeling is more relaxing than painting, though he admits it is embarrassing to have her gaze at him so intensely. The teacher tries to adjust his pose to match themes of love and freedom, but is unimpressed until he suggests holding a banana. Taka, wanting to protect the tie he traded with Sekime, carefully tucks it into his shirt pocket before grabbing the fruit. The teacher is delighted and demands more bananas, eventually piling them all over him and balancing one on his head until he is fully covered. Sekime sketches him while blushing furiously. When the teacher inspects her work, he is amazed to find that she has drawn it perfectly, but has completely omitted Takadono himself. The teacher sees it as a brilliant artistic choice, saying the floating fruit highlights the model by what isn't there. While Takadono assumes she drew a normal masterpiece, the class crowds around her to marvel at the novel idea. The piece is entered into a contest and actually wins an award, a masterpiece born entirely from her overwhelming embarrassment and inability to look directly at him. During the school assembly, the teacher announces that Sekime has won an award for her entry in the art competition. As everyone congratulates her, Takadono claps enthusiastically, beaming with pride. Later, he walks down the hall with such a spring in his step that his friends notice immediately. They squeeze him, demanding to know what good thing happened, but he keeps the secret to himself. He is just happy because he and Sekime have planned to walk home together. After school, the couple attempts to leave sneakily. However, their progress is halted almost immediately when a girl stops Sekime to ask how she came up with the banana painting. She answers politely, but as soon as they start moving again, another person stops her, followed by another. By the time they reach the shoe lockers, they are both exhausted. Just as they think they are clear, a long-winded teacher corners her. Realizing this will take a while, Takadono signals that he will wait at the front gate, and she nods in understanding. While waiting alone, he reflects on how popular she is and wonders if it is greedy of him to try and keep someone like her all to himself. Feeling discouraged, he begins typing a text telling her to take her time and that they can walk home together another day. Before he can send it, she comes running up to him, apologizing for the delay. Suddenly, another voice calls out for her nearby. Desperate to avoid another interruption, she quickly pulls him away, and they manage to sneak off before being spotted. Once safe, Sekime suggests taking a specific road home. He points out that it will take them out of their way, but she explains that taking the detour ensures nobody will see them, allowing her to spend more time with him. He agrees immediately while blushing, and as they walk the long way home, the distance between them gradually closes. The following day, our lad finds himself wandering outside in his casual clothes, muttering about an errand his parents sent him on. He is carrying an unwieldy 6.5-foot laundry pole, feeling incredibly self-conscious as passers-by glance at him. He worries about being a nuisance on the train and just wants to get home quickly. Suddenly, he bumps into someone. He apologizes immediately, only to realize the person is Sekime. Both of them freak out upon recognizing each other. He turns away awkwardly, asking if she is out for a walk. She explains that she was shopping with her family, but headed home early while they ran other errands. He blushes, internally lamenting that he wishes he were wearing cooler clothes and, more importantly, not holding a giant laundry pole in front of his girlfriend. However, she asks if he is busy. When he says no, his face turns red and he gathers the courage to invite her for tea. She agrees, turning this chance encounter into a surprise date. He leads her into a nearby cafe, maneuvering the long pole with difficulty. Once seated, he struggles to position the item without it sliding everywhere, eventually resigning himself to holding it upright with his hand. She returns from the counter with drinks, sitting at a polite distance. They make small talk about the tasty new menu item and the weather, with Takadono noting that despite the wind, it is perfect for a date. Suddenly, a woman nearby loses her grip on a large banner she is moving. As it wobbles and falls directly towards Sekime, she squeezes her eyes shut, bracing for impact. However, the blow never comes. Takadono reacts instantly, using his laundry pole to catch the banner and block it from hitting her. The woman apologizes profusely. He immediately checks on his girlfriend, asking if she is okay. Blushing, she confirms she is fine and thanks him for saving her. He smiles, relieved that she is unhurt. Later, at the train station, he waves goodbye. As he steps out of the train doors, the laundry pole clunks loudly against the wall, a clumsy reminder of the day, but a worthy tool that helped ensure they had a great date. At school, during gym class preparation, Takadono asks the teacher where to store some equipment. The teacher directs him to the storage room but warns him that the door tends to stick, so he should ensure no one is inside before closing it. When he enters the room carrying the brackets, he is surprised to find Sekime already inside, organizing a stack of orange cones. He offers to help her, and she gratefully accepts. Suddenly, a voice calls out from the hallway, asking if anyone is there. Panicked at the thought of being seen alone together, they instinctively hide behind a storage rack. Assuming the room is empty, the person outside shuts the door. Once the coast is clear, they emerge and try to leave, but the door refuses to budge. He recalls the teacher's warning and realizes they are trapped. Upon hearing this, Sekime panics and begins running in circles around the dark room. Watching her, he thinks she looks exactly like a wild bird trapped in a classroom. He tries to calm her down, warning that running in the dark is dangerous. However, in the confusion, they trip over one another and fall onto a pile of soft gym cushions, with Sekime landing directly on top of him. Both of them freeze, blushing furiously at the intimate contact. In a desperate attempt to create distance, she scrambles backward and crashes into the door with such force that it slams open, breaking off its stuck latch. They quickly hold the door up and prop it back into place to look normal. She immediately sprints away, leaving him sitting on the cushions, still reeling from the encounter. Ironically, the storage room door became much easier to open after that. Days later, the sports festival finally arrives. Takadono wraps a headband around his head, ready to compete. While his friends argue over whether their team color is magenta or pink, getting weirdly specific about pronunciations, he focuses on Sekime, thinking that now is his chance to look cool in front of her. The events begin with a stilt race, followed by a unicycle race. Takadono excels at both, moving with such agility that he leaves a dust cloud behind. As his friends praise his incredible performance, he smiles, hoping that she was watching. Next, it is Sekime's turn to run. Seeing her on the track, he shouts out encouragement. Hearing his voice, she blushes and suddenly accelerates, running as fast as a race car and taking first place by a wide margin. Her teammates crowd around for high fives. However, when she turns to high-five Takadono, both of them panic. She raises her hands but immediately aborts the motion and runs away. Despite the awkwardness, their hands brush slightly, leaving him happy about the contact. During the midday break, the cheering squad performs. Sekime leads the group at the front, chanting for Team Magenta. Watching from the sidelines, he is mesmerized, thinking she looks incredibly cool before the afternoon events begin. During the bread-eating race, Takadono arrives with an armful of supplies, telling his friend that he bought everything the school store had left to stop the girls from fighting over the limited bread. He shouts to the competitors not to hog the food as there is plenty to go around. Meanwhile, seeing Sekime in the cheering section, he thinks she looks incredibly cool in the uniform. Later, during the scavenger hunt race, Takadono is suddenly pulled onto the field by a friend. The friend hands a chit to the teacher which reads, "Someone who looks good in glasses." Confused because he isn't wearing any, Takadono improvises by making circles with his hands over his eyes. Surprisingly, the judge counts it, and the friend claims he makes glasses look stylish. After that, he gets dragged out repeatedly by other classmates for prompts like great body and charisma, simply because he is nearby, leaving him frustrated. Finally, it is his turn to race. He runs to the box and draws a chit that says, "Someone cute." He looks into the crowd and spots Sekime, thinking she is the only one who fits the description. He blushes, preparing to call her, but at the last second, his nerves fail him. Instead of her, he grabs his male friend, Omiya, and presents him to the judge. The class erupts in laughter, with other boys shouting that they are way cuter than Omiya. By the end of the festival, their team wins the cumulative prize, and Sekime is chosen as the MVP. As classmates crowd around to praise her speed, a student points out that Takadono was also incredible in the stilt and unicycle races. Amidst the praise, Sekime speaks up, telling him directly that he was amazing. He blushes, realizing she had been watching him compete. The class decides to take a commemorative photo of the two MVPs. Takadono and Sekime stand together, both blushing furiously. The moment the shutter clicks, she sprints away. The rest of the class joins in for a group picture. Afterward, Omiya teases Takadono about picking him as the cute person earlier, but kindly promises to send him the photo of him and Sekime standing together. Overjoyed to have a treasure picture with her, Takadono hugs his friend in gratitude. The next day is seat-changing day, and everyone draws lots from a box to determine their new spots. Takadono prays that his number will place him near Sekime-san, but when he draws number 20, he resigns himself to a seat in the back row. He realizes he is sitting directly behind his friend, Miyakojima, and jokes that he can now give the friend a facial massage anytime he wants. Just then, he gets a surprise when the person taking the desk next to him greets him. It is Sekime. She politely says that since they will be neighbors, they should get along. He is completely confused and blushes furiously, unable to believe he actually gets to sit next to her. During class, he notices that Sekime is making circles with her hands and holding them up to her eyes. He recognizes the gesture as blinkers, gear used on racehorses to restrict their field of vision so they can focus. She is using them to block him out so she can concentrate. The teacher eventually scolds her, noting that she is staring so hard she might burn a hole through the board. She apologizes, and an awkward silence falls between the blushing couple. Later, she drops her eraser. Takadono leans down to retrieve it at the exact moment she does. They bump into each other, get flustered, and quickly pull away. He places the item back on her desk, internally screaming that this proximity is bad for his heart. The situation gets more tense when a student nearby points out that Takadono and Sekime are using matching pens, the chupacabra merchandise they bought on their movie date. Both of them panic, terrified that their relationship will be exposed. However, his friend Miyakojima saves the day by pulling out his own chupacabra pen, laughing that the movie was awesome. Relieved, they agree that it was a timeless masterpiece. Takadono thinks that while sitting next to her is embarrassing and prevents him from relaxing, he is also incredibly happy. The teacher then announces that for the rest of the class, everyone will be working in pairs with the person sitting next to them. Hearing this, Takadono and Sekime both turn bright red. It is a scorching summer day. During lunch, Takadono jokes that he wishes they could hold class underwater to escape the heat. His friend suggests a better alternative, going to the pool on Sunday. The group eagerly agrees. At the pool, his friend is inflating a swim ring, commenting that he wishes he had a donut that big to eat. Takadono quips that he would need a massive deep fryer for that. Suddenly, a beach ball hits him in the head. As he picks it up, a girl apologizes for the wayward throw. It is Sekime. He is shocked to see her there, internally noting that she looks insanely cute in her swimsuit. Her friends arrive and invite the boys to play volleyball in the water. The group has fun playing volleyball and doing seal impressions with the ball. Eventually, someone suggests the water slides. The group rushes off, leaving only Takadono and Sekime behind. She tells him she wants to keep playing volleyball. He misses a catch and goes to retrieve the ball. When he turns back, he sees two strangers flirting with her, calling her cute and asking if she is alone. Takadono intervenes, asking if they have business with his companion. One of the strangers laughs, mistaking him for her little brother or a junior high student. Takadono firmly corrects them, stating clearly, "I am not her brother, I am her boyfriend." The strangers are surprised, but Sekime is even more shocked. Her face goes blank with disbelief, and she suddenly speeds away through the water like a human torpedo. The guys lose interest and leave to find someone else. Left alone, Takadono floats in the water, realizing it was the first time he had ever called himself her boyfriend in front of others. Meanwhile, she hides behind a pillar, overwhelmed. When the friends return from the slides asking where she is, he covers for her, explaining she went for a swim, knowing that hearing him claim their relationship had a devastatingly powerful effect on her. It is the day of the optional school trip. On the bus, Takadono takes a photo of his friend to send to Miyakojima, who stayed behind for emergency napping. During the ride, a classmate comments that the trip is worth it just to see Sekime in her casual clothes. Takadono glances over, and when she turns around, their eyes meet, causing both of them to blush. He realizes that while they likely won't get any time alone, he is happy simply spending so much time in the same space as her. That evening, after taking a bath, the boys gather in a circle to play a card game about collecting ingredients for meals. The game quickly devolves into jokes about eating screws and cats. Suddenly, one boy announces that he learned something amazing, Sekime-san's type. The group listens intently as he reveals that she likes guys who are handsome, kind, and have a cute smile. Hearing this, Takadono can't stop smiling and has to hide his face to conceal his reaction. Meanwhile, the other boys delusionally convince themselves that they fit the description perfectly. Takadono then asks the group if they think anyone has ever confessed their feelings to her. The boys laugh, dismissing the idea as unthinkable. They agree that it would take a fearless person to approach a beauty like her, adding that they would love to see the face of the guy who had the guts to do it. Feeling awkward because he is exactly that guy, Takadono drops his cards and excuses himself to get a drink. As he walks toward the vending machines, he wonders if her description of a handsome, kind guy with a cute smile was actually referring to him. When he arrives at the machines, he is shocked to find Sekime-san sitting there, leaving them alone together amidst the school trip gossip. Takadono is stunned to find Sekime standing alone by the vending machines, realizing this is the first time on the trip they have been truly alone. He awkwardly initiates small talk, mentioning the card game he was playing with the boys. She mentions that her room was having girl talk. He blushes, relieved he kept the fact that the boys were also talking about girls to himself. The conversation turns serious when Sekime confesses an insecurity. After hearing about other couples, she feels she doesn't act like a normal girlfriend because she constantly runs away to hide. She worries that he will eventually hate her for it. He immediately reassures her, explaining that if she didn't care about him, she would act normal. He views her shyness as proof that he is special to her, adding that he finds the excitement fun and thinks her bashful side is cute. He suggests they simply go at their own pace. She smiles and thanks him. Suddenly, a classmate calls out that it is almost lights out. Takadono scrambles to hide behind a desk while Sekime stands her ground. The classmate notices an extra drink bottle on the table, but tactfully says nothing as she escorts Sekime back to her room. Moments later, a teacher on patrol spots Takadono emerging from his hiding spot and orders him back to his room. The next morning at breakfast, Takadono is still half asleep. When a girl asks if she can sit at his table, he agrees without looking up. When he realizes it is Sekime, he panics, and they exchange shy greetings. The moment is interrupted by his friend, who demands Takadono take photos of him. Consequently, the absent Miyakojima receives a flood of glamorous solo shots on his phone instead of anything interesting. Finally, the weekend is over. At school, Takadono and his classmate Noe are finishing up class duty by writing in the daily journal. They make small talk about a friend who boldly brought a pillow to school to sleep, and they casually exchange first names for the first time. Noe briefly recalls seeing an extra water bottle next to Sekime during the school trip, realizing she might know Takadono's secret, but decides not to pry. However, Noe then asks a pointed question. "Did I see you walking around holding hands with a girl recently?" Takadono panics internally. He knows he has never held hands with Sekime, so he wonders who she saw. Surprisingly, he admits to it, telling Noe that he is actually planning to hang out with that girl again today. Unbeknownst to him, Sekime is standing just outside the door, waiting to walk home with him. She overhears the entire conversation and is devastated. She thinks about confronting him but instead hides as he leaves the classroom. Determined to find out the truth, she decides to tail him. As she follows him through the streets, her imagination runs wild. She tries to rationalize the situation, wondering if the girl he held hands with was actually a misunderstanding, perhaps a giant bat or a ghost. She eventually loses sight of him, but tracks him down by the sound of his voice saying, "Wait, let's hold hands." Terrified of what she is about to see, Sekime peers around the corner. To her immense relief, Takadono is not with another romantic partner. He is happily holding hands with a very small child, likely a relative or neighbor, and singing a nursery rhyme with the little girl as they walk down the street together. Sekime freaks out and shouts, drawing his attention. He turns around, shocked to see her. When he asks why she's there, she hesitates, then gives a weak excuse. She was so focused on kicking a rock down the street that she didn't notice where she ended up. He believes her, impressed by her concentration, and notes she must have been at it a while since she left school before him. She then asks about the child. He introduces the little girl as his younger sister, Sora, explaining that he sometimes picks her up from kindergarten. He asks his sister to introduce herself. The little girl hugs him, praising him for a good job, and tells Sekime her name. He attempts to introduce Sekime to his sister, hesitating as he tries to say, "She is my girlfriend." However, before he can finish, the little girl whispers loudly into his ear, asking if she is the girl whose pictures he is always staring at on his smartphone. He turns bright red, and Sekime freezes in shock. Unable to deny it, he hides his face and admits, "Yeah, that's right." Overwhelmed by the revelation that he constantly looks at her photos, Sekime shouts that the rock went that way and sprints off to chase the imaginary object. He calls out a goodbye, and they part ways, both dying of embarrassment. At school, the teacher dismisses the class, warning everyone not to go off with strangers offering candy. Finally, summer break begins. Takadono thinks that he wants to spend the vacation visiting many places with Sekime to grow closer. However, just as she looks toward him to speak, his friends drag him away to hang out. He leaves her standing there, and consequently, the timing to invite her out never feels right. Half the break ends up passing without them meeting. He eventually hears a rumor that her family went on a vacation overseas. He regrets not asking about her plans before the break started. At home, he is playing princess with his little sister, Sora. She asks what he is wearing to the ball, and he jokes that he will be sporting a t-shirt and shorts. Eventually, his mother takes Sora to swimming lessons, leaving him alone. Wondering what Sekime is doing and if she has returned from abroad, he stares at his phone. He accidentally dials her number and panics, but before he can hang up, she answers. Flustered and still in princess mode, he awkwardly greets her with a formal, "Hello, how do you do?" She mirrors the greeting. He apologizes for the sudden call, but she admits she is happy to hear from him. He realizes how much he missed her voice. She explains that she just returned from her family trip yesterday and bought him a souvenir. She apologizes for not telling him sooner, admitting she missed her chance on the last day of school. He feels guilty, knowing he was busy playing billiards. He notes that because they are not face-to-face, their conversation flows much smoother than usual. Just then, his mother returns home. Realizing the call has to end, neither of them wants to hang up. Seizing the moment, he asks if she wants to go to the fireworks festival next week. She immediately agrees. He hangs up, smiling at the thought of their upcoming date. Meanwhile, she is equally thrilled that they are finally going out again. The romantic mood is broken when Sora bursts back into the room, announcing that it is now time to play Samurai. On the day of the festival, Takadono receives a call from his friend inviting him to see the fireworks. He declines, explaining that he already has plans. He gets dressed up, excited for his date with Sekime. While waiting for her at the meeting spot, he hears two guys chatting about a super cute girl nearby. He looks in that direction and realizes they are talking about his date. She approaches him, apologizing for the wait. The two strangers are stunned to see her with him. He compliments her, telling her she looks cute in her yukata. She covers her face with her sleeves and shyly tells him that his outfit suits him too. They explore the stalls and decide to try a target shooting game. He thinks this is his chance to look cool, but he misses every single shot. Then she tries. Her aim is terrifyingly accurate, like a sniper, and she easily wins 2 prizes. He is amazed. She decides to return the prizes to the shopkeeper, who cries with relief. Suddenly, he spots a classmate nearby. Realizing the festival is swarming with students from their school, they hide behind a wall to avoid detection. She points out a stall selling masks, and they decide to buy animal masks to conceal their identities. He agrees it's a great idea, noting that even if eating is hard, at least no one will recognize them. When the fireworks begin, they slide their masks up to watch. She marvels at the beauty of the lights. He agrees, though he spends the entire time staring at her instead of the sky. As they walk home, they encounter his friends walking toward them, carrying massive amounts of food. He overhears them joking that they wish he were there to help carry the load, but luckily, he remains undetected behind his mask. Finally, the date comes to an end. She thanks him for the fun time, but gets nervous and looks straight ahead. He stops her, stating seriously, "Sekime, I would like to talk about us." Following their conversation at the festival, Takadono asks Sekime if she is sure about his plan to tell his friends everything. She confirms that it is okay. Later, his friend Omiya arrives at his house for the first time to work on summer homework. The friend comments on the room, but freezes when he spots what looks like a life-size doll sitting perfectly still on the bed. Takadono invites him to sit, internally debating whether to reveal his secret now or wait for the others. Suddenly, the doll moves next to him. Omiya screams in terror, thinking the object is possessed. Takadono quickly clarifies that it is just his little sister, Sora, relieving the friend, who thought he had developed a strange hobby. Takadono asks his sister if she wants to hang out with them, and she agrees. By the time the second friend, Miyakojima, arrives, Takadono answers the door with girly hair clips all over his head. Omiya is in a similar state. When Sora sees Miyakojima's long hair, she excitedly begins styling it as well. To thank them for playing, the little girl performs a complex T-perm solve on a Rubik's Cube, impressing the high schoolers. After lunch, Sora falls asleep, and Takadono carries her to bed. Returning to the living room, he decides the time is finally right. He faces his friends and drops the bombshell he has been holding back. He is dating their classmate, Sekime. The truth of their relationship has finally come to light. Takadono feels a mix of embarrassment and relief after telling his friends the truth. However, their reaction is strangely muted. They simply respond with a casual, "Oh, really?" and return to their homework. He assumes they took the news well and starts the new school term feeling optimistic. However, once school resumes, his friends begin acting bizarrely. They treat him with VIP attention, fanning him and offering snacks constantly. When he spots Sekime in the hallway and tries to greet her, one friend physically grabs his face and turns it away, acting like a possessive partner to prevent him from looking at her. Later in class, the other friend goes so far as to move his desk directly between the couple to block their view. The teacher eventually has to lure the friend back to his proper spot using a piece of candy. Takadono finally realizes what is happening. They don't believe him. He confronts them, asking if they think the relationship is just his imagination. They offer him pitying smiles and suddenly hug him, apologizing for leaving him alone so much during the summer. believing the solitude and heat have caused him to hallucinate a girlfriend. The rest of the class begins whispering that he has finally snapped. Meanwhile, a girl warns Sekime to stay away from the room because Takadono is having a delusion that they are dating. Hearing this, she rushes into the classroom. His friends try to stop her to protect him, but she finally shouts, "Wait, it's true, we are dating." To the absolute shock of the entire class, she clearly declares that she likes him. Takadono bursts into tears of joy at the public validation. She apologizes for letting her shyness cause such a misunderstanding, while his friends stand frozen with blank expressions, unable to process the reality that the relationship is actually real.
Here I am, know it's been a while.